She walked into the bank like any other customer, quiet, unassuming, her steps soft and deliberate. Her gray sweater hung loose against her frame, her slacks creased, but faded with wear. A simple black purse dangled from one arm, and her shoes, once elegant, had clearly seen years of use. No one gave her a second glance. To the bank staff behind the counter, she looked like the kind of woman who might need help finding the ATM or ask for a balance check on a nearly empty account. So when she approached the counter and softly requested to withdraw $500, the teller barely blinked. A young woman named Kayla, new to the job and not yet trained in subtlety, suppressed a smirk. She leaned over and whispered to the teller beside her, who glanced at the elderly woman and shrugged. A muffled laugh followed. To them, this was routine. Another quiet lady looking to scrape by. The woman noticed the glance. She saw the whisper, but her expression didn't change. She simply stood there, her hands clasped over her purse, her eyes kind but steady. Then, after a long pause, she leaned a little closer and said, so calmly, so clearly that both tellers froze, actually, I'd like to withdraw $2 billion. Silence. The words hung in the air like perfume, startling, fragrant, and unmistakably real. Kayla blinked. I'm sorry, ma'am? I said, I'd like to withdraw $2 billion. The other teller's eyebrows lifted. A few customers nearby overheard and turned to look. For a second, no one moved. Surely, she was confused. Delusional. Maybe she had read the wrong number. Or she was playing a joke. But the woman didn't laugh. She didn't flinch. She simply waited, eyes level, face unreadable. The bank manager was called. His name was Trevor Cartwright, a man who wore expensive cologne and prided himself on solving problems swiftly. He approached with a tight, polite smile. Ma'am, I understand you made a rather large request? I did. He cleared his throat. Could you please repeat it, just so I'm sure I heard correctly? $2 billion. I'd like to withdraw it. The smile faltered. Might I ask, why? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small, well-worn envelope. It was creased at the edges, the paper slightly yellowed with time. She handed it to him wordlessly. Trevor opened it. Inside was a legal document. Not a note. Not a check. A signed, sealed, notarized document that bore a name, one that made Trevor's heart skip. His eyes flicked back up to the woman. His smile disappeared entirely. She wasn't a nobody. She wasn't confused. The document bore the name of Elliot Godfrey, a financial magnate who had vanished nearly a decade ago under mysterious circumstances. His disappearance had left behind an empire in limbo. There were whispered rumors about offshore holdings, shadow accounts, and a secret successor. But no one had ever confirmed anything. Until now. Please, Trevor said, his voice quieter now, would you step into my office? She nodded and followed him, each step measured and silent. The bank's lobby watched her go with eyes full of new speculation. Inside the office, Trevor gently closed the door, locking it. He unfolded the document fully and scanned it again. The legal seals. The offshore bank routing. The signatures. It was all real. How did you come into possession of this? He asked, his throat suddenly dry. My husband left it for me, she replied softly. He told me, if I was ever dismissed, belittled, or disrespected, I should use it. That it would remind people who I am. Trevor's hands trembled slightly. The name on the document gave her access to an enormous trust fund, one with decades of accumulated wealth. He excused himself to make some calls. First to the regional director, then to legal, then a private line used only in rare emergencies. Meanwhile, outside, word was spreading. One of the senior clerks, Paul, pulled up the internal system and searched for her name. What he found froze him. A dormant account, flagged, confidential, board access only. Its file hadn't been touched in over 12 years. When he tried to open it, the system required 3 levels of clearance. But even the preview of the metadata showed something odd. It wasn't just one account. It was linked to a network of shadow holdings, high-security transfers, and something labeled Project Halcyon. Back in the lobby, a sleek black SUV pulled into the parking lot. 2 men in tailored suits stepped out. They didn't speak to anyone. They simply stood at the bank entrance, observing. Security noticed, but didn't intervene. Something about their demeanor said, don't interfere. Trevor returned to his office, pale and jittery. We may need someone from the board to weigh in, he said. The woman didn't blink. I expected that. Then she reached into her purse again and handed him a second envelope. This one was pristine, sealed, its paper firm. I was told to give this to you only if it came to this. Trevor hesitated before opening it. When he did, he paled further. The letter was addressed to the bank's chairman, directly from Elliot Godfrey, dated nearly 10 years prior, and it detailed a clause buried in the original trust formation papers that if Elliot were ever to disappear under questionable circumstances, control of his estate, including all banking relationships, would default to his legal spouse. This woman. The building's lights flickered for a moment, just enough for every computer to blink and reboot. When the systems came back online, the dormant account was no longer dormant. It was live, and its balance exceeded even Trevor's expectations. Not $2 billion. 27. The bank's digital infrastructure quietly lit up in warning. Red flags in the system. Phone calls triggered. Within minutes, another alert surfaced, a motion on a different, sealed account. One that hadn't been accessed in over 15 years. Trevor didn't understand at first. There's another account. It's tied to your husband's name. He might still be alive. The woman's breath caught. She walked slowly to his desk and stared at the screen. A single transaction, tiny, almost symbolic, had activated it. It was like a whisper across time. He always said, she murmured, he had one last move left. The door opened suddenly. The two suited men stepped in, followed by a third, an older man with silver hair, a sharp jawline, and eyes that had seen too much. He wore a deep navy suit and didn't bother introducing himself. You took everything from him, the woman said softly, without standing. Now I'm here to take it back. The older man didn't deny it. He nodded slowly. He warned me this might happen. I didn't think he'd be bold enough to put it in writing. She slid the letter across the desk. He opened it. As his eyes scanned the contents, his expression darkened. Inside were documents, legal, binding, absolute. They outlined how the control of Elliot's empire, in the event of foul play or disappearance, transferred to his wife. Not just the trust, but the board seats, the accounts, the shell corporations, every last asset. Trevor sat silently as the older man stood, face unreadable. He turned and walked out of the office without a word, the two suits flanking him. The woman stood, straightened her purse, and smiled. I won't be withdrawing $2 billion after all, she said. I'll be transferring everything. As she stepped toward the door, Trevor's phone buzzed once more. Another account. Another alert. He glanced at the screen. This time, it wasn't her name that appeared. It was her husband's. A chill passed through the room. The woman stopped, her hand on the door. Is he? Trevor didn't know what to say. The activity was minimal, just enough to trigger visibility. A breadcrumb. A sign. Not a full return, but a beginning. He may still be out there, Trevor whispered. The woman walked back to the desk, lifted the phone gently, and read the screen again. Her fingers trembled slightly. Then she turned and left the bank, not with applause, not with media attention, but with a quiet resolve. Outside, the SUV was gone. Inside, the whispers had ceased. Employees who had mocked her now watched in silent reverence. In the weeks that followed, the bank underwent changes. Quiet ones. Several executives resigned. Some were reassigned. And somewhere, an account remained active. Waiting. This was never just about money. It was about legacy. About respect. About a woman dismissed because she didn't fit the picture of power. But she'd never needed noise to command a room. She just needed to show them the truth. And she did. So the next time someone walks into a bank dressed in simple clothes, asking for a small sum, remember this story. Because some fortunes aren't worn on the outside. And some storms walk in softly.